Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. First of all, thank you all so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And we are going to continue chapter number 3 of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I feel so fortunate to be in India right now in the holy place. And it's just transcendental, absolutely transcendental. Maybe I shouldn't come back. I don't know. I'm just kidding. So let's continue with chapter 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga. And we will do verses 17 through 26. Verse number 17. Yastva atmarati eva syat atmatriptascha manavaham atmani vacha santushthas tasya karyam na vidyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we can see here, Krishna is advising Arjuna that the human form of life is meant for self-realization. It is not meant for eat, sleep, and be merry. That the animals also do. They eat, they sleep, they have babies, they defend themselves. But we human beings, because we have philosophical intelligence, we should use it for self-realization. And here in this verse, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that one needs to be fully conscious of the Supreme Lord, fully Krishna conscious, and fully satisfied also. Mostly what happens that here in this material world, the more we get, the more dissatisfied we are. We want more and more and more. So here satisfaction is important. And how can we be satisfied? Only when we follow the instructions, just like when we are driving on the road, we will be safe as long as we are following the state laws, the traffic rules. The moment we break them, there is problem for us. So similarly, there are laws of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and he gives us those rules and regulations so that we can become self-realized. And once we are self-realized, we will be happy and satisfied in any situation. So to do that, there is a process given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, what are the rules, how to follow them. And of course, we need guidance in this matter as well, just like we take guidance in our material endeavors. So also in spiritual endeavors, also we need a teacher. Now, how do we know who is a self-realized person? A person whose heart is completely cleansed, the consciousness is clear, is fully confident in understanding what is my relationship with the Supreme Lord. What is it? How am I related to Krishna? And what is my position? What am I supposed to do? Is, fully confident and is also no longer interested in temporary sense gratification. Now, how many of us have watched movies? And not only watched movies, maybe some of you all are still watching movies. Why is it that we've been watching movies for such a long time and still we are not satisfied? We want to watch more and more because it did not give us permanent satisfaction. So here in this verse today, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that one must become self-illuminated. And that is possible only when we follow the process. And once a person reaches the status of self-realization, is completely understanding, I am not this body, I'm the spirit soul, I'm the servant of the Supreme Lord, and my constitutional position is to serve him, to serve the Lord. So when that self-illumination takes place, of course, we need the mercy of the Supreme Lord as well for becoming self-realized. Now, how do we get the mercy? There is a famous saying, God helps those who help themselves. So he first wants us to help ourselves. And then when he sees our very sincere effort or endeavor to become self-realized, then he bestows his mercy upon us. So self-realized means that person may still be in family life, is taking care of family, is taking care of relatives and friends or whoever it may be, is still going to a place of work, has a job, but the consciousness is completely different, because that person, self-realized person, is not working for self, is working for Krishna, for the Supreme Lord. So there is no personal, enjoyment in mind that, okay, if I, earn so much money, this is how I'm going to enjoy. Now, let me give you an example. We have to eat to keep the body and soul together. We need to maintain the body, so we need to eat. Now there are two kinds of people. One, both are working in the same office, doing the same job, earning the same amount of money. Just let's take this example. They are doing that, but then one of them is working with the consciousness that I am working because I want to please the Lord, and I want to use whatever money I earn, I want to use it in his service. Whereas the colleague, the other person is doing the same job, but at the back of the mind is, I need to enjoy. This job is for me to get a lot of money and then I can enjoy. Now, this chapter is called Karma Yoga. So what is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is where we perform our activities following the rules of the scriptures, but we are not thinking of enjoying the results of our activities. But whereas if we do the opposite, where we want to enjoy, then we get into bondage. Like we learned last class, yagnarthat karmano natra loko yam karma bandhana tad artham karma bandhaya mukta sangha samachara. So there Krishna explains that whatever work we do, that has to be done as a sacrifice for the Lord. Otherwise, the work causes bondage. So if we take an example of food, we all need food to, survive. So there are two options. One is we buy the food, we cook and we eat it. But here Krishna said that if we cook food for personal sense gratification, then we are only eating sin, because even vegetables have life. So if we are killing life for our sense gratification, then we are incurring sin, and every action has a reaction. So if we are committing sinful activity, then we also have to face sinful reactions. But if a self-realized person understands that everything is to be used in service of the Lord, then that person will not depend on anyone, any other living entity for survival. So because Krishna is saying in this verse that those who are self-realized, they do not depend on anyone and they're not obliged to do prescribed duty. Only thing is they have to become conscious of the Supreme Lord. Now one may say that if the person is not going to work, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to bring food on the table? But a self-realized person understands, yes, I need to work, but the consciousness has to be different. So being conscious of Krishna doesn't mean inactivity. No, it means we do perform activities, but in a different consciousness. Let's see what he says in verse number 18. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. So once self-realized, then not dependent on anyone. Why? Because there is understanding based on the knowledge from the scriptures. There is good understanding, and that person is still performing prescribed duties, but at the same time purifying the consciousness. See, it is very important to reach the stage of self-realization that we purify the senses, purify the mind, purify the intelligence, purify the body, purify the brain, the consciousness. All this is necessary. So here it's in this Bhagavad Gita, step by step, is Krishna is going to give us the process by which we can purify all these and yet be able to perform our activities. Verse number 19. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So here's a process how to reach the Lord. Very simple, that we need to work without attachment. And that actually has a word, a name, which is called akarma. Akarma means we are following the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita, we are following God's laws, we are performing our activities, but there is no attachment to the work. We are not contemplating on how we can enjoy with the fruits of our actions. No, that is not there. There is no attachment to the fruits of activities, just performing prescribed duty, but no attachment at all. But for that, we need guidance. Proper guidance is very, very important. And then we can gradually progress on the path of self-realization. Now here we can see that Krishna is guiding Arjuna, his best friend. He's guiding him to become transcendental to reactions of good actions and bad actions. Go beyond it. So one may say, oh, does that mean we should not perform good actions? No. We have to perform actions in consciousness of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Then there will be no reactions, because good actions have good reactions. And what does that mean? That means we have to come back into this material world, take birth again to enjoy the reactions of good actions. Do we want that? Do we want to come back into the cycle of birth, disease, old age, and death? No. We want to use this human life to break this cycle and go to a place where there is permanent happiness, where there's full satisfaction, where there are no miseries at all. And best of all, there is no death. It's permanent situation over there. So here, Krishna is guiding Arjuna to not have any personal attachment, but to act on his behalf. Because Arjuna, as we saw in chapter 1 and 2, he's giving a lot of reasons why he should not fight. Now, he's a soldier, he is a warrior, and his prescribed duty is to fight. Now, he is in the battlefield, and on the opposite side, he sees his relatives, his grandfather, his spiritual teacher, and he says, how can I kill them? So here, Krishna is giving him guidance on how not to have any personal attachment. And any action that is done in consciousness of Krishna is transcendental to both good actions and bad actions. The problems come when there are reactions. We have heard this before. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So that is what we need to be aware of and be on guard, be alert that we don't perform any activities that are going to lead us to some more reactions. So problems come only when there are reactions. So why not work in a way where there are no reactions? And Bhagavad Gita is teaching training as well. The 20. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. A very nice advice to Arjuna, that you perform activities in the way I'm telling you to do that, so that you set a good example. And here in this verse, Krishna is giving the example of King Janaka. I'm not sure if any of you are aware who is King Janaka. King Janaka, yes, is the father of Mother Sita and father-in-law of Lord Ramachandra, who is an incarnation of Krishna. He came down in another yuga, in another age. And so here example is given of King Janaka, who was a pure devotee of the Lord. In fact, he is considered one of the 12 Mahajanas. Maha means great, Janas means personalities. One of the 12 great personalities, he's one of them. And he taught his subjects by example. He did not just give rules, okay, you do this, this, and this, and then he didn't follow it. No, he did. He wanted to set an example, just like parents, when they want to teach something to their children, they have to show it by their example, right? If the father is smoking and tells the son don't smoke, son is not going to listen because there is no example from the father. So father has to set an example so that the children can follow. So similarly here also, Krishna is giving the example of the king, who was a devotee of the Lord, and he taught by his example. And Arjuna also, when we will see towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he will understand. Of course, he already knew he was a self-realized person, but he pretended to be in ignorance so that he could ask these questions so that we could get answers for ourselves, because we are not pure devotees, like Arjuna or King Janaka. We need purification. So here to give us this knowledge, he inquired. And of course, Arjuna, he fought on behalf of Krishna because all his arguments failed. He tried so many different arguments, but Krishna was able to slash them all with the help of knowledge. Let's see verse number 21. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Again, talking about leaders, good leaders. People need good leaders who can teach by example. I'll tell you a story I had heard a long time ago, where there was a lady, she had a young son, probably 10 or 12 years old, and he was very fond of sweets. He was attached to sugar, so he just wanted to eat sweets all day long, which is not good for the body. So she did not know what to do. She tried to explain to him, giving him reasoning, etc. It didn't work. So she heard that there was a great sage who was visiting that town. So she took her son to that sage, a great, devotee, and said, can you please help me? My son, I have tried to explain, but he doesn't want to listen to me. Can you please tell him to not eat sugar? Now in India, if a great sage says something, everybody follows. Mostly everybody follows because they have great respect for great sages, because they know that great sages are going to say something that's going to be beneficial for us. So this sage, he didn't say anything. And he said, why don't you come back after 1 month? And so she said, okay, you follow the instructions. So this lady, she took her son and went back. And of course, he continued eating sugar as always. And then after a month, she brought him back. And then she said, if you remember, I had come 1 month ago. You asked me to come, and please, can you please tell my son not to eat sugar? And that great personality told that boy, my dear boy, sugar is not good for the body. So you please do not eat sugar. So the boy said, yes, sure, I will follow your instructions. So then this lady, asked this personality, you could have said the same thing a month ago. Why did you make me wait a month? Look how much sugar he's already eaten in 1 month. So he said, dear lady, I was myself eating sugar. So how can I give the instruction to the boy, don't eat sugar, when I myself am eating. So I have to first practice before I give the instruction. So I knew it would take me a month to leave sugar, not eat sugar. So now that I'm not eating sugar, I can tell him, do not eat sugar. See how important the instruction is. So this is called setting an example, right? We need to follow first, like they said, practice before you preach. So we need to practice before, if we are a teacher, we need to practice before we can give instructions to someone else. So teacher or preacher, they should practice. That is very important. And the teacher, in the real sense, the spiritual teacher, should follow instructions from the scriptures, from the Bhagavad Gita. That is very important. And then when we see someone who's following, then we can follow in their footsteps. Right? Just like in the scriptures, it is mentioned a king, a spiritual teacher, parents, political heads, they all have great responsibility because they are in that position to guide their dependents. Just like the king is responsible to take care of all the subjects, the spiritual teacher should take care of all the disciples, the parents take care of all the children, not just material needs, but also spiritual needs. And of course, political heads, they also have a great responsibility. Let's see verse number 22. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems. Nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything. And yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna, even though Krishna doesn't need anything at all, he has everything. He doesn't need to perform any prescribed duties, but he says, even though there is no prescribed for me, yet he says, I'm engaged in prescribed duties. When Krishna came here on this planet Earth 5,000 years ago, he performed all the prescribed duties so that he could set an example, right? If he did not perform, how can he tell us in Bhagavad Gita, do your prescribed duty? Everyone will say, well, you didn't follow. Why are you telling us to follow? So he was engaged. For instance, he would wake up early in the morning, which is called the Brahma Muhurat, which is the time of pure goodness. He would wake up and he would do mantra meditation himself on himself. He would chant his own holy name just to set an example. That doesn't mean we wake up in the morning and chant our own names. No, that means we wake up in the morning and we do mantra meditation, because that mantra meditation will help us in purification. So here Krishna, even though he is the Supreme Lord, he's a controller, he's the greatest of all the leaders, he's worshipable, he's the supreme director, no one is greater than him, he's the cause of all causes, yet he is working to set an example. In fact, when he came down 5,000 years ago, he accepted a spiritual teacher, and because he wanted to show with his example how to accept excuse me how important it is to accept a spiritual teacher. It is very important to accept so that we can get guidance and that spiritual teacher can train us. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that when he came down even 540 years ago, he accepted the spiritual teacher. He showed by example how one should lead this human form of life. Let's do verse number 23. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my paths. Simple. He's saying that if he did not set an example, others are not going to follow. If he did not engage in prescribed duties, the others would not follow. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Abhyuttanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Dharma sthapana. He comes down whenever there is a religion. He comes down to establish religion. So he descended on this earthly planet to establish religion. Now, when he has come down for that purpose, then it is important that he himself also follows the prescribed duties. And that is the reason, even though he is the Supreme Lord, he performed prescribed duties. Now, this chapter 3 is all about karma. The title of the chapter is Karma Yoga, which means karma is actions, but when we do karma yoga, which means we are performing actions in consciousness of Krishna, then that becomes karma yoga. And then in that situation, there are no reactions. Verse number 24. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So here, Krishna is giving the consequences. Like if we do not, perform prescribed duties, then there's going to be social disturbance. So to avoid social disturbance, it's important we follow the laws of the Supreme Lord. Just like to avoid accidents on the roads, it's important that we follow the traffic rules. Then there is peace. Then everyone is safe and is able to, drive peacefully. But if, even if one person breaks the, traffic rules, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be chaos. So similarly, the rules and regulations given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, they are important for us to be peaceful. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham bija pradaha pita. I am the seed giving father of all living entities. He doesn't say only human beings. He says, I'm the father of all living entities. I am the seed giving father of all of them. So, being the father of all living entities, he is guiding his children to how to lead this human form of life. So if we follow the process given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, then we will not only be happy, we will be peaceful, and we will be fully satisfied. And I'm sure everyone in this world is looking for peace and happiness, because if the fact that they are looking for peace and happiness means right now probably they are not happy and peaceful. So it's important that we understand the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Let's see verse number 25. We have 2 more verses left. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So again, Krishna is talking about setting a good example. So if we are conscious of Krishna all the time, then our activities, they will be very conducive for self-realization. As I explained, the actions may look the same. 2 colleagues doing the same work in the same office, getting paid the same amount of money, but the consciousness of both of them is totally different. One is attached to the fruits and one is detached to the fruits of activities. So it is important to become conscious. If we become conscious of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, then we will become conscious of our own identity, who we really are. Let's do the last verse of today, number 26. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So, what's the meaning of this verse? That we need to work in the spirit of devotion. In chapter 15, verse 15, Krishna explains, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto matah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedes cha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. Translation, Krishna says, I am situated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. He says, I am the compiler of the Vedas, and I am to be known from the Vedas. So in this verse, he's explaining that I am there situated in everyone's heart. And we choose what we want. We want to remember him, forget him, or we want knowledge. So when we make the choice, he blesses us accordingly. So supposing tomorrow I decide, I'm not interested in becoming conscious of Krishna. I'm not interested in spirituality. I'm not interested in self-realization. So what will Krishna do? He will bless us, bless me. Okay, you can forget me, no problem at all. So we make that choice. He does not enforce his will on us. We make the choice. So we need to understand the position of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and our position. See, we are, before we come to the knowledge part, the spiritual knowledge part, most people, they are engaged in enjoying their senses. They are engaged in doing fruitive work, which means I do this and this is the fruit I'm expecting, and the fruit that comes from my actions I'm going to enjoy. Now in the Vedas, a lot of rituals are mentioned. So many follow those rituals for some material benefit, right? But if we have the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand what is the process, how we can lead a stress free life, how we can lead a karma free life where there are going to be no reactions at all. So if that knowledge is not there, then there's definitely going to be disturbance. So here Krishna is setting an example with his own personal example, showing us how we should perform our prescribed duty. He's also showing Arjuna what is the right path to self-realization, because self-realization is going to bring bliss in our lives. Right now, the bliss that we have is with material things, like, oh, the new iPhone is released, so I want that iPhone because it's going to make me happy, or it's going to make me blissful. But it's temporary, because the moment iPhone 14 is released, we are sad because we have an old phone, it's 1 year old. So the things, the material things, they give us temporary happiness. But here Krishna is talking about leading a blissful life, and that blissful life starts with mantra meditation. Every class, I stress on this point of mantra meditation, and I humbly request all of you to please do some mantra meditation on a daily basis, so that we can, purify our heart, purify our senses, purify intelligence, and purify, the whole existence. And when there is purification, then we will really understand our real identity, which is the spirit soul. So in the chat, I'm going to put the links to all all the links that, the Zoom link for Fridays, Facebook page, YouTube channel. If you've missed any classes, you can go there and you can hear them, the recordings, and the WhatsApp group if you would like to join, where I post, now I'm not sure if any of you have join the WhatsApp group, so you can see all the different places that I'm visiting in Vrindavan in India, all the prayers that are being offered. So if you like, you can join the WhatsApp group to get the updates. And then at the bottom, you will see the mantra. It is called the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I would humbly request you to please chant with me just for a few minutes, so that you can get an idea how to chant and how it can help us in our day-to-day life. So let's just chant for a few minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is how we chant this Mahamantra. So please chant every day. It is auspicious to chant 108 times of this full Mahamantra, and it takes about 10 minutes. So please chant on a daily basis if possible. So I'm going to end here, and